Located in the middle of the biodiverse region of Barzan, the Shanidar Cave has served as shelter to different forms of life for over 100,000 years. The valleys leading to the cave at one point in time were home to Neanderthals, whose remains are now being excavated inside the cave. When we arrived at the cave, Professor Graham Barker and his team from Cambridge University were just putting an end to the excavation season. They were refilling the excavation site with bags filled with soil to preserve the location until their return next year. Barker and his team have been excavating Shanidar for the past 10 years. Now their excavation focuses on a transitional period where Neanderthals started going into extinction and early Homo sapiens rose to the scene.
We did two things really. We excavated a small trench down the bottom of where we'd arrived at, and as a result of that, we've got down to 10 meters below the surface. Professor Selecki in 1951 to 1960 got down 14 meters, and from our particular trench, we don't think we go any further. We're about 100,000 years ago, okay? And what we've been doing apart from that is excavating here, and the reason is that we can see from Professor Selecki's photographs that there was some soil here that ought to span the period when Neanderthals stopped coming to the cave and they died out everywhere about 40,000 years ago, and our species, Homo sapiens, started coming to the cave. So this year and next year, that's going to be the focus, to try and see if we can contribute to one of the biggest debates in human evolution, which is why did Neanderthals, after being around for 400,000 years, over a region from Spain to Russia and from England and Germany to here, and they're so successful for so long, and then everywhere they disappear about 40,000 years ago.
Shanidar was first excavated in the early 1950s by American archaeologist Ralph Selecki, who at the time found the first remains of Neanderthal life in the cave. For years, locals in the area had used the cave as a shelter through wars and rainy seasons. Little did they know that under the very ground that shepherds would bring their herd to rest, lied remains that would change the perception on history.
خۆی ئەشکەوتی شانەدەر ناوبانگێکی ئەو توی جیهانی نەبوو. هەر خەڵکی منتیقەیەک دەیزانی بۆ بەخێوکردنی مەڕ و ماڵاتی بەکاردێنە. لێرە لە کۆنەوە مەڕ و ماڵات خەڵکیێرە وەکو پەناگایەک وەکو شوێنی حەوانە بۆ مەڕ و ماڵاتیان بەکارێنە. لێرە چەند ماڵێک پێکەوە ژیان و مەڕ و ماڵاتیان بەکارێنە. بەڵام دوای ئەوەی لە ساڵانی پەنجاویەک بۆ شێست شوێنەوارناسی ئەمریکی ڕالف سلۆکی هەڵ دێرە هەڵکۆڵینی کرد. ئەوە بوو لە ماوەی ئەو 9 ساڵەدا نزیکەی 10 پەیکەر ئێسکی مرۆڤی نیاندەرتالی دۆزیەوە. لە دوای ئەم بەروارە لە دوای ڕاگەاندنی ئەم دەستکەوتە ئیدی ناوبانگی ئەشکەوتی شانەدەر پەیدا بوو.
Selecki's most famous finding was referred to as the flower burial, a theory that has since been rejected by many. However, his findings changed the perception that Neanderthals were living beast-like lives into the idea that they were very similar to modern humans, and they would care for their injured and dead.
But why Shanidar Z is so important? We found the upper half of her body, a skeleton remains, and she is a metre maximum from where Selecki found the flower burial. And we've found fragmentary remains, a few bones of other Neanderthals above and below where she is, and Selecki found remains of other Neanderthals, fragmentary remains now in Baghdad under Shanidar 4. And what Emma Pomeroy thinks, she's the project anthropologist looking at the bones, she thinks that we've got at least 5 individual Neanderthals buried at, it's about 8 meters down, 75,000 years ago. It's not a cemetery, they're not coming at one time. It looks from the soil between and the work we've done in it, that it's probably over several generations. But they're coming back to the cave, and in fact, you can see down there, just sticking out from the sandbags, is a tall rock that at the time would have stood out of the surface of the cave by about 2 meters. And they're coming back to the same place, and they're putting these bodies, they're placing the bodies behind this prominent marker, and it looks like they're doing it over several generations, and they're placing them carefully. The case of Shanidar Z, we know that they were preparing where they put her. They were making a natural gully a bit bigger to put the body in, and they're placing the bodies so the head's outside. In other words, there's some memory and culture about how you deal with the dead. So that's completely unique in Neanderthal studies. So often people say, well, did Neanderthals have religion? Not as you and I know it. On the other hand, they're clearly thinking about death, and they're doing special things to people.
The cave rose to the spotlight again in 2024, when the face of Shanidar Z was reconstructed, a middle-aged Neanderthal woman whose remains were found during the 2018 and 2019 excavation seasons. Now people visit the cave on weekends, not only to see the beautiful nature of the region, but also to learn more about its history. Professor Barker believes that the Shanidar cave holds universal value, which should serve as the basis for the Kurdistan regional government to apply for the cave to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Kurdistan's got one UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Citadel in Erbil. And this has got the potential to be a second World Heritage Site. And it's a complicated process. I've been involved in nominations of big caves in Vietnam and a big cave in Borneo, Malaysia, Sarawak, where I excavated years ago. And it's a very complicated process, but if you look at the criteria that UNESCO say, and sites have got to have, I know it's critical for Kurdish heritage, and everybody's taken Shanidar Z into their hearts as the mother of Kurdistan and so on. The definition of a World Heritage Site has got to have universal value, and Shanidar Cave has universal value. So I think that's another thing for Kurds also to realise. It's fantastic the way Kurds have taken Shanidar Z into their hearts, and it's fantastic they should really see that this is a critical part of their heritage. It's a site to treat with enormous respect. It's a site that every child in a Kurdistan school should know about, should know the story.
Excavation continues at the Shanidar cave for around a month every year. There is still quite a lot that we do not know about Neanderthal and early Homo sapiens life. Shanidar might have the answers to many of our questions.